Hey,
Yes,
what's up, man?
what's up? How are you,
I am very well,
Rohan?
thank you. How are you?
I am very good too. It's a wonderful Monday,
It
not so
is
blue
indeed.
today. It is Monday.
Uh-huh.
Yes, it is
Yes,
Monday.
it is Monday. It is Monday.
And it's been a wonderful time to have you here. Clearly, a lot of people are excited to see you on this live. So,
I am
welcome,
glad to
welcome to
hear
Coffee
that.
with
Thank you.
Creators.
Thank you.
This is the coffee. Oh,
I have
yeah.
tea. I have tea. Is that okay? I have.
Okay, yeah,
It's
works for
fine. It's
now.
fine. Is that Mortal Kombat?
Yes, that's a Mortal
Are
Kombat
we
mod.
basically doing Marvel versus Capcom here?
I was about to ask you about fandom, but sure, let's go Marvel versus Capcom. It's been a while they did that game.
It's true. It has been. How you been? What's been up, man?
Hmm. Lot of
Hmm.
questions in the head, lot of
Hmm.
weird thoughts and mind things happening. Is why we are doing this live, is why I made a show because I didn't know what else to do with those questions. I asked a few
Fair.
people and they all had the same questions. Oh, we've already started with tell a joke.
Buy a ticket.
Nice one, nice one, nice one. Okay, Rohan, I'm gonna go straight into it.
Hmm.
Congratulations on the 420K and regrets on passing it by so
Thank you,
fast,
thank
but
you,
you
thank you,
surpassed
thank you,
yourself
thank
over
you. I
there.
had it and then it was gone, but it's okay. It's fine. I can live with it. I can live with it. It's the
Of
most
course you
420 thing that could happen.
will. Not for long. Okay, so as a creator, Rohan, I see you speak your truth. There is a lot of anger, there's a lot of sadness, and there's a lot of frustration in it at the same point of time.
Right,
And even on a normal day, like I was there for your Wake and Bake show,
right,
and sitting in the audience, I didn't know what hit me towards the second half of the show. I had no expectation. It was going
right.
all la 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 la, and then boom, in your face. That's kind of what's happening on your Instagram, but that was then pre-pandemic. Now we're
Right.
in the pandemic and in the second wave of it. How does it affect you? How is it getting to you?
How is it getting? Oh, wow, that is such a loaded question. Because I think probably speak for a lot of the 700 people who are on this live right now when I say that I think everybody's in this state of emotional flux, right? I think we're oscillating between hope and despair every 5 minutes to just somewhere in the middle of that complete nothingness.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's impossible to sustain an emotion for too long. In this, you despair at somebody else's story, then suddenly you cough for 2 seconds, you're anxious for yourself, then 10 seconds later you're fine, and then you see somebody else's story that they got a bed or they got oxygen or somebody's better, and then you're happy again for a second, and then the cycle repeats itself. How I'm dealing with it now is just sort of taking it one day at a time. Because I think if there's one thing that the second wave has taught us is that the greatest plans of mice and men, um, right? Because there was a point in February where we thought we were done with this disease, where our sort of our entire sort of national machinery was telling us that we had dodged a bullet and we'd averted a crisis and it was business as usual, and all of those things. And it's almost eerie that exactly 1 year later, we are back in not just the same place, but in a worse place. And I have no idea how to unpack any of that. So if you thought I was, say, like angry then, um, now is just, I mean, anger doesn't even begin to cover it. It's anguish now, pretty much, right? And it's not, you know what, at this point, it's not even like for people in the audience who might want to jump. It's not even about the politics of it for me anymore. It's just about the fact that what is happening is horrible and an abdication of responsibility by people on many, 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 many levels. And I don't know sort of how to get around that and into just going, let's make content. I have no idea how to do that. And I think this is something we've talked about, but what's it like for you? How are you dealing with it?
Yeah, I mean, I dressed up as the Joker. I mean, I don't know. I'm not dealing with it very well either because honestly, this affects our work altogether as well. There are no
Right,
more shoots. I had a job once upon a time for like about 9 years. I quit that and I got into this in 2017. Things were
right,
going great. And then this comes in, and suddenly you're
right.
like questioning choices.
Of
You're like,
course.
what the hell? So
Of course.
I'm still like, I mean, the first wave is where it hit me bad because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't prepared. No one
Sure.
was prepared for it, but I didn't even make content on my own. I only did branded content at that point of
Right.
time. So once
Right.
the branded content stuff ended, there was nothing for me to do, and I kind of became a potato. And then I was complaining as to why I wasn't getting any work because I wasn't making any work.
Sure. Yeah.
So, lessons learned, second wave's a little bit better for me. At least my mind's a little in a healthier place.
That's fantastic.
Honestly, I was expecting it for some reason.
That's fantastic. You want to trade? Um, yeah, I think I actually responded better to the sort of first wave in terms of content creation because I was like, you know what? This is new. This is interesting. This is something that we are all as a world dealing with together for the first time, sort of ever. And there's a lot of people who are just sort of home and not sure what to do with themselves right now. And I think there's stuff that I could try because I mean, I was also at that point largely just a lot of energy suddenly trapped in a box. Um, so like, let's do this. It'll be fun and this will be nice and it'll be all of that. I was I was psychologically not okay to go back to this, in the sense that I had some very different plans for this year. But now plans, the word plans only now means something else in the sense like there's just so much reevaluation going on at so many levels of just there were the things that I wanted from my life before 2020, and there are now the things that I want from my life in this post-pandemic world, and they don't fully line up. So there's a lot of recalibration that's going to have to happen.
I mean, didn't you see it the way we were treating the pandemic as if it didn't existing? It didn't exist. I mean, I kind of like all those talks of lockdown. Initially, yes, there was denial of like, हाँ नहीं होगा, they can't do it,
Yeah,
it's going to affect business. But somewhere in the back of my head, I knew it was going to happen, and the earth would get some time to heal. Well, we will feel.
right.
But and in your first lockdown, you were one of the first people on my Instagram to get an RT-PCR test done for a shoot, and then you had home shoots. You did that Netflix thing, and you kind
Yes,
of
I
walked
did.
around
I
of
did.
how it was set up and all of
I
that.
remember doing lots of like after that just calls and chats with like other people. I think we also had a chat where it's like, hey, how are you managing at home? What's the scene?
Yeah.
This and that. That was wild. I still remember that first shoot that I did, like literally the equipment. It was one of the most eerie things ever. Like just I go downstairs and there's just this pile of equipment. I haven't seen the people who have sent it. Just pile of equipment. I lug it up to my house. I do all of that. And then the next day, it's like me and two laptops full of people on my screen because it's being directed means like proper directed. There's a DOP, there's a director. There I am going through like I'm deep, like ass deep in like DSLR settings. No idea where I am with these people sort of doing this. And I remember shooting like for some 6 to 8 hours straight, and then it was done. And then again, I just packed up all the equipment, I put it down in a pile, and then it went away. And that was it. It was the most surreal thing imaginable.
A lot of new experiences. Like, I mean, before the pandemic, you got your home done, and you shared that entire experience. In fact, one of the main thing that I love about your social media is how you share everything as a story, and
Right.
that kind of connects. It's not just okay. There's a lot of angry comments saying talk about crypto, so we'll talk about crypto, but after this.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, we are on other things right now. We're dealing with the pandemic first. We'll talk about making money later. Um, so you live alone and you just started living in this house when it all just went to shit.
Yes.
Um, how did you cope with, where were you then individually as a person living alone to now when it's kind
Um,
of a year later almost?
so I'd already actually been living alone for 8 years before this. This is the house
Okay,
got renovated. I'd already, so in that
okay.
sense, actually, I was the luckiest because
Mm-hmm.
I like had made like the perfect little sort of cave for myself and just moved into it. And the thing is, honestly, lockdowns and things like that, they play to my strengths. All right. I'm the sort of person who, you even on a normal day, if you tell me the lockdown is over, also, I mean, for me, that's not a good enough reason to get off my couch. Like if you're like, hey, lockdown's over, I mean, I'm still enjoying my couch. So in that sense, it fully played to my strengths. It was, it was obviously. I thought for the first few months, actually, I was in a really chill state. Because
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was like an adventure. Like, all right, every day, clean the house, learn to cook, because this is entirely new. I'd never cooked before in my life. And just occasionally make like time pass content, or then just sort of chill at home on my couch. And it was actually great because I felt like I got a lot of time to just sort of reflect, unwind, think about what I wanted to do. Except that I did all of that thinking in the first lockdown. This year was the year to action that shit. Um, so this year it feels more frustrating, because all of last year's planning has a little bit gone for a toss. As for the sharing things as stories, I'm sure you can tell by now is I like to talk, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that I can be very excitable about things. So, which is why I find like that sort of ability that some creators have to be able to compress things down into a single photograph or a single edited piece is something I'm very envious of because I'm not capable of it. It's at this, so which is why you see me do 6 stories for everything because I'm too lazy to edit my thoughts down. And I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to stream of consciousness this with you guys. And I think it's nice that people sort of say relate to that tone. I mean, and I say that because I don't have the strength or the ability to come up with another tone. So it's good that they like it.
And while you've been living alone, like you said, you've been tapping into a lot of new things, be it fitness. I mean, that you had
Yeah,
started. Are you in your 30s right now, fitter than you ever were before?
I am. I actually legitimately am. I am eating better than I've ever eaten before. I am keeping myself active more regularly than I ever did in my 20s. I like it. I'm at that level of fitness right now where I look at myself in the mirror every day and go like, you idiot, if you had done this 15 years ago, do you know how successful you would be right now? Like, do you know a different like this? But it's just yeah, no, I'm definitely fitter now. It's something that one physically and sort of physiologically, I just feel like with everything that's going on outside, I need to keep my body in tip-top shape. That's
Right,
one thing, right? Like you don't want to get sick. Well, if you get sick, you just want to give your body the best possible fighting chance.
right.
That's one thing. And the other aspect of it is it is directly linked to my mental health. Like I could plot on a graph my moods on when I stop working out and when I'm regularly working out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Nice.
So for me, it's more a matter of like whether, so there are days where even if coach is not available, I'll
Mm-hmm.
do like 10 to 15 minutes, like, or 20 minutes on my own just to sort of get my heart rate up,
Right.
sweat it out a little bit, just keep the body active, do all of those things. And it's helped immensely. And it's also amazing, like what you can get done with like one 6 by 6 bit of space and
Yep.
20 minutes of dedication.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. And do you think the lockdown gave you a chance to get fit? I mean, possibly would have been a very much busier person without the lockdown. Do you think you were able to achieve that primarily because of the lockdown?
I think in some ways, yes, in the sense that I actually started eating better in the lockdown because I was ordering less food. I was making a lot of my own food, things like that. But also no, in the sense that like my workouts were a part of my routine even before the lockdown happened. So I was hitting them 3 days a
Mm-hmm.
week. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of other stuff on top of it. So my day was active. The problem that happened here is that I'd have this burst with my workout, like an hour of like drenched, and I've done everything and it's great. But then the rest of my day is just horizontal. Um, like entirely, and I told you in the previous question that like I'm like one of those things where like unless you apply an outside force, I will just stay horizontal for a very long time. I have created a life where all pop culture for consumption is within an arm's reach. I never have to move like this octopus, like with many tentacles, just consuming all the time, and I never have to move. Um, so yeah, I now like work extra hard to keep myself like fit. I've become that Uncle Xerxes. I go down in my building for a walk in the evening, Xerxes.
I go for runs.
I
I'm that uncle too. Please don't worry. It's excellent. I relate with you because I
Hardeep has a
this
good point.
lockdown.
Drum classes or practice. There are times where I do practice. I have a drum kit. I have been learning the drums for a couple of years. And yeah, I'm not as regular as I should be, but occasional weeks I'll like fully like get into it. And suddenly that whole week I'll be practicing one thing very diligently. Then for 2 weeks I'll like disappear again. And I'm sure you're noticing the common thread in these questions, Xerxes, is that my main problem is discipline.
I mean, get excited by something and then it's there somewhere till
hmm
you want to go back to it. Which brings me to pop culture. You spoke about pop culture within an arm's length. Recently, you got into Dungeons and Dragons. Um,
Yes.
are you still into it, or was it a passing thing?
I am still very much into it. My friends and I, we are actually mid-campaign. The only problem is that we were meeting and playing, and then ever since this sort of started, we've this thing, and we've thought about playing online, but we realized that we really enjoyed like a large part of the fun of the game is just sitting around a table with some of your friends and sort of
Right.
making the story happen. People who are saying, "Where's Yoda here? Dekh lo Yoda ko, dekh lo." Uh,
Oh no, I think they're talking about
oh,
my
your
cat
cat?
Yoda.
Well, in that case, now you should hold your cat up. Now hold your cat
My
up.
my
Uh,
cat's at my girlfriend's house.
oh
Both my
no!
cats are there. Yeah, they have a lot of space over there, so they're chilling there.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, about Star Wars, the universe saw a very good I don't know, comeback with Mandalorian, and season two was everything that we lived for in the lockdown. And now
Yes.
there's Bad Batch, which almost
Yes.
seems like a course in parenting. Star Wars has just become about
Basically.
parenting right
Yeah, Star
now.
Wars has become about parenting. That's what it is. It's the parenting guide we never knew we needed.
Clearly, right? So, do you think Mandalorian was so good because we were fed a lot of average stuff with the last trilogy?
I think one, yes, definitely. I think in the sense that there's if somebody's been getting 20 on 100 in maths for 4 years and suddenly they come with 60, you're like, this is good, this is good. This is very good. This is very good. And I
Right,
think there was an element of that, but I also think it was a reminder of the fact that the series had almost just become too complex and wrapped up in its own lore for no reason.
right.
I think one of the things that I loved about The Mandalorian is that, yes, while it did have appearances from other characters, etc., it really took the story back to basics.
Very much.
Yes, Grogu is the only character that has the sort of Force connection, right? Other than that,
Right.
what I like is it moves us away from that larger conflict of the Jedi and the Empire. It shows you this thing. And between John Favreau and Dave Filoni, like these are
Mm-hmm.
two people who are very good at taking basics and
Right.
just sort of executing those basics beautifully. And that's something that Star Wars, funnily enough, is not done, at
In a
least
while.
cinematically for a while, right? Like, because the
Yeah.
trilogy was just what a mess. What a mess, right? Like, I mean, it's like, even if you say basics, right? It doesn't even get the basics right. Like, it's just an appallingly, as three films, it's just appallingly bad storytelling, right? And then on the other side, you have this animated universe that is then always sort of left with the burden of elevating these things, right? Like which we saw with the Clone Wars also, right?
Yeah.
Like it like single that show elevates the prequel films.
Trilogy a lot
It's
more.
almost like that's its job. And I think that then that's what Dave Filoni and John Favreau also did with The Mandalorian, where they're just like, look, we'll just tell a fun story and we'll try and do it in a way where it almost doesn't matter if you don't
Mm-hmm.
know who a lot of people are. And I think what they did is they gave people a version of Star Wars that was just thematically fun to watch. I think they gave people a version of Star Wars that's also, after a long time, just really pretty to look at. Um,
Very simple
just
and
very
a lot of
simple and
practical
beautiful to
effects.
look at. And I think in that sense, it's the show for the lockdown, in the sense that, look, I feel like when times we went through years of plenty, right?
Huh.
We went through years of plenty, let's face that. And our entertainment just got darker and darker and darker and darker and darker. All right. And then now we live in times of darkness. And I feel like what we need from our entertainment is just a little bit of hope somewhere, even if that hope is in a completely fictitious setting or whatever. I feel like that's what
Yeah.
we need. And I feel like that's where, like, I feel like it's not a coincidence that last year everybody became a shit street cheerleader. This is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. And I think that's where we are with the Mandalorian as well, where all you're concerned about is there's this extremely cute child, and I don't want anything to happen to this really cute child. And if that can be my focus for the next 8 episodes, that would be great. Thank you. Um, yeah.
That is true. And then we had another ray of hope with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Um,
Yes.
And okay, so when the campaign was on, the release, the Snyder Cut campaign, which side of the fence were you on? Did you believe it existed, or were you on the like, "Arey yaar, chodo na, they made a trash movie, move on"?
No, I mean, I believe that there was obviously a different vision for the film. Like you watch Justice League, like if you are at all even a slight film buff, you watch Justice League and you're like, this is
Meh.
this is textbook example of like movie making by committee, right? Like where too many people have gotten their paw prints over this, and you've just got this weird sort of this thing. So I sort of, yeah, I did sort of live with the this thing, the fact that, you know what, maybe Zack Snyder had an idea or a sort of vision for this film, and it didn't happen, and that's the end of that.
Hmm.
That said, I'm also definitively one of those people that believe that while Zack Snyder is a tremendous cinematic voice in the sense that he's unique,
Hmm.
stylistically, etc., this, that, he does not always deploy that to his benefit.
Yeah.
In the sense that this is like a great chef but sometimes like who makes great things using butter, but let's just face it, you don't always need to use butter. You know
He
what I'm saying?
overindulges
Right? He
himself.
overindulges, like in the sense that, and I feel like for me, like, and I'm like a Zack Snyder fan since I'm talking Dawn of the Dead. All right. Like,
Right.
I think his Dawn of the Dead is one of the greatest zombie movies of
Classics. Yeah.
all time. It's a classic, right? And it's something else. To then sort of see him go from that to like the point at which I sort of little bit just pulled back from the Snyder cult was Sucker Punch,
Ooh.
which visually is delightful. But
But I don't know what the story was.
I remember halfway through that movie going, these are great music videos. Uh, these are tremendously good music videos, but what the fuck have I been doing here for an hour and a half? This is absurd. And which is why even with the Snyder Cut beyond like because even Batman versus Superman, right? I thought
Yeah.
it was an interesting movie, but for me, with everything, with the sort of director's cut, this, that,
Martha.
it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. And this argument can rage forever because I know there are diehard supporters of the film, but it doesn't work for me at all. That
Mm-hmm.
said, the Snyder Cut campaign, I'm just, I'm one of those people that's like, it happened. That's interesting. I don't know if it's good or bad, but it is the most 2021, 2020, 21, 21 thing I can imagine, right? Which is just
Right.
like in a world that can get a research vessel named Boaty McBoatface. This is the logical outcome of like a cinematic fan campaign where a studio is forced to sort of give you an almost entirely different film.
Different movie.
Um, it's a lot better than the original, but
Oh,
it's still
yes.
not in any way perfect. And like everybody says, like enough with the lamentation music, guys. Like
And
enough with the lamentation music.
it had about 23 minutes of slow motion. Apparently
It had a
someone did a
lot of slow
math.
motion.
I
Like it had
loved
a
the movie.
lot.
I'm a Snyder fan, but yeah, there
Fair.
was a lot of slow motion. And BVS, the theatrical cut sucked. The Ultimate Edition was, it made a lot more sense, but Martha didn't make any sense at any point of time. And someone just asked about WandaVision and Winter Soldier.
I thought
That's
WandaVision was a significantly better product than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, for sure. I
definitely.
felt like there were a lot of cool ideas in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I don't know whether it's because of the pandemic filming that was stopped and the plot lines they had to cut or whatever. But I felt like as a final product, it kind of just got over the line. Like, like it
It
kind of
just pushed through.
it just sort of got over the line. WandaVision, I just thought was, man, what a delight. It was like, what I loved about WandaVision is like, after watching the whole show, it, I could 100% imagine this as like a, like 9 issue comic series. Um,
Fair.
right? Like a sort of where the art style in each and every one would be distinct and beautiful until you sort of get
Mm-hmm.
to the end and all of that. But yeah, I just felt like Falcon and the Winter Soldier would have been a great movie.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're just told
Yeah,
me
it
the
was a
same
little
story over 2 hours, whatever, oh, fucking
great.
Bucky, what are you up to, bro? Arey, nothing is Sam, what are you up to, bro? You know, 2 hours would have been damn good. But then, like, little this thing happened. I agree with the person who's saying that Falcon's internal struggles. I thought that was so. The thing I loved about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and this I want to like straight up say is, I loved some of the choices that they made with the writing, where they're like, you know what, we can't get around the fact that what it would mean to be a black Captain America,
Black
especially in
Captain
America
America.
today.
Yeah.
We can't sort of get around that at all. so you know what? Let's lean into that conversation. And I thought those parts, like for me, I feel like, and I'm sorry if I'm giving sort of spoilers here. Um, for me, I feel like the moment, like where, for me, the peak of that show was that conversation sort of between Bucky and Sam, where Bucky goes, like, it was not right of Steve and me to sort of give you the shield in the sense that we couldn't contemplate for a second, like the
Hmm.
extra baggage. And my favorite is that moment where Sam just sort of looks at him and goes, the point is, it doesn't matter what Steve thinks. Um, and I feel like that was such a brilliantly executed moment. Like, you just ended the show there. I would have been like, too
Great.
good. But yeah. Also to the person in the comments who said next Nolan film LSD plus shrooms, I'm sorry, with the greatest of respect for Christopher Nolan, etc. This, that his movies are so tightly wound and constructed, and this thing that he's not an LSD and shrooms guy. All right.
LSD,
Like,
yeah.
in fact, I'm willing to bet money that the guy has like never touched LSD or shrooms, because if you make a movie which is literally about dreams, and the most exciting thing that happens is some guys on skis and guns chase you, you have not in your life touched LSD and shrooms. I could not, I love Inception, but it still blows my mind that there's a scene in a movie where a guy is in a dream and he looks at another guy and says, you mustn't be afraid to dream a little bigger, darling. And the only thing he dreams is that his gun becomes slightly bigger. Like, like, it's dreams, bro. They should have flied, bro. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, it's just, and I love Nolan, all right? I love Nolan, but he strikes me as way more of like the cocaine and amphetamines, like
Razor
this thing
focus. I
that
know
comes,
what I'm
yeah,
doing.
like laser, like just laser. But
And
yeah,
the last one for pop culture, Invincible. Go. Have you finished it?
I have, so I finished the show, I finished the comics.
Oh, you.
I
Oh
couldn't help
God, you
myself. I
went
couldn't
down
help
that.
myself. I couldn't help myself. I was like, this is a ton of fun. Then I just sort of kept going. And I just had too good of a time. Like, I
Okay.
just had too good of a time to stop. It's just a beautiful comic to look at. And I have this very peculiar thing in my life. Whenever I've been in like my say greatest stress or greatest like tragedy or greatest anything like that, I find that I just naturally come back to comics. Like from
Right.
all other reading, I just naturally come back like to comics. Like I can tell you comics that I was reading at like big sort of like events in my life. And
Which
this
point
and
what? Yeah.
at which point what? And Invincible feels like it really came on like at the perfect time. And so the first episode, all right, I watched it, and for the first 30 minutes, I was like, I don't get
Justice
it.
League
Like in the
ripoff.
sense that, and I'm like, you know what, that this is a lot of talent to throw at what so far feels like a very like formulaic, yeah, J.K. Simmons and like Steven Yeun, and what are you doing? Like this and that. And I still remember, right, when the first episode aired, I was like in like Uttarakhand. It was like 12 o'clock at night. It was like cold. I was like half asleep. I was just watching on my TV. And the last 10 minutes happened. The
Oh God,
last 10
that.
minutes happened. All right. And I just remember suddenly just sitting up in my bed going, what the,
What the fuck
what?
just went
How
down?
am I supposed to, how am I supposed to sleep like after that? What is going on? Like, and then after that, yeah, it's just been a trip. And the
Yeah.
comics, the thing is, it actually, so the animated show does some things better than the comics in the sense that the comics started in 2001, 2002. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, the conversation has changed a lot between then and now, right? So the comic still has certain choices that are a bit like weird, but maybe okay for like 2001, 2002. The animated show has updated that nicely. But
Right.
once the comic sort of goes past all the stuff that we already know,
Mm-hmm.
um, bro, that story goes somewhere
Okay.
else.
Spoiler territory.
No
I
spoilers.
am.
I'm just saying that story goes
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah. I'm
Like,
just 2 issues down, so I have a long way to go on that.
also, it's a stunning comic to look at. It's a
Yeah.
beautifully drawn
It.
comic.
Yeah, and
It is a
the
beautifully drawn
animation on
comic.
the show is also doing a lot of justice to it.
Yes, it
It's
is.
it's
Like it's
good.
taking a lot of little moments from the comics and like stretching them out beautifully.
Yep. And tell me a little bit about AIB. A lot of questions on your feed and in the live stream about All India Backchod. Uh, you guys had an unfaithful demise, like unnecessary demise, and now you guys are all almost back from the dead in your own individual ways with very different
Right.
voices. Are we ever going to witness a little bit of a reunion?
I don't know. I mean, it's not something that like we've ever talked about. Again, like I just feel like so much has changed in the last year and a half, that I think all of us are also just recalibrating our lives, looking at what we want, etc. And we're all sort of anyway like in touch and like doing stuff, and you'll see us on streams, etc. This and that. But at this point, there isn't really like any sort of formal this thing planned because, like I said, I mean I think we did some really fun and like great things with AIB. And I feel like if there's more that we want to do with it, I think we'll find our way back to it sort of naturally. But if there's stuff that we want to do with each other as creators without necessarily like piling the AIB name onto it, that's also something we can do. So at this point, I have no answer for you other than like all options are on the table, but options are on table, but I am on couch. So problem
Not too far away, within
fundamentally is
arm's
that
reach.
within arm's reach, but it's there. Like you should know,
Uh,
like this is the most productive thing I've done today, Xerxes. Like you should know. Thank you for holding me to this. I showered for this.
Same. Tell me, how was Rohan different back then to Rohan right now? When Rohan started off in AIB, were
Uh,
you always a comic before that?
yes, I
What were
was.
you doing before that? Yeah, I mean,
I
I
was doing
don't know
stand up
you from
before that.
before.
So I was doing stand up before that. I was working with Veer Das, who also, of course, everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
He was a fantastic sort of person to work with. I learned a lot from him. Before that, I used to work with a very reputed news channel called Times Now. Um, and I wish I was making that up, but it's a fact of my life, man. And yeah, so I did comedy, I did all of that. But the biggest difference between Rohan then and Rohan now is that if and this is the people if you think I'm stupid now, you should have seen me 10 years ago. Like, believe me, if you think I'm any of those things now, you should have seen me 10 years ago, friends. Um, I think I don't want to use the word calmer because anybody who follows me on Instagram knows that I'm not always a calm person. Um, but the biggest difference is that I think I have a little more empathy now.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that I am capable of sleeping on emotions a little better now,
Okay.
instead of sort of having knee-jerk reactions to things. And I think I'm just a little better at processing information and emotions
Mm-hmm.
now than I was. I also know more. And this is not any credit to me. It's just credit to fortunately being surrounded by some extremely sort of wise voices on the internet, right? Like there are so many amazing creators we all like learn from. So I feel like that. I feel like I've learned a little bit. Still
Mm-hmm.
long way to go. But I think what happens is sort of I think what happens is the more you learn, the more your confidence drops. And I mean that in a way that you're less cocky about things because you realize that things are um, often a little grayer or stranger or sometimes just blacker or whiter than you think. And I think, yeah, I think that's the big difference.
I mean, maybe basically the fact that you know so much makes you actually think that you know nothing, in fact.
Yeah, you're right. You suddenly realize how vast the pool of information in this world is, right? And
Yeah,
that if you spent your whole life studying, you would still not have accessed even a fraction of it.
yeah.
Um, so yeah.
You put out a lot of help requests for people right now. Your stories are literally like one request after another, helping people meet the requirements. In between, you'll drop in a little meme and then you
Hmm.
go back to sharing requests. Are those memes and your comedy reels a defense mechanism for yourself in some way? Are you trying to tell the world that you're okay? Are you trying to tell yourself you're okay?
I think what it is so one is right now like I'm not really making like sort of too much content or anything like that because I feel like one of the things I asked myself this year is do I have anything to contribute to the conversation comedically? And I
Mm-hmm.
sort of looked at myself and I went, I don't really think that I do. But at the same time, I have this account that has sort of like 400,000 odd followers, and there's me, the content creator, and there's my media, which are the pipe, right? And I feel like I have this pipe, and if there's good information that I can sort of put out, using it instead of taking up like pointless space in the conversation, let me do that, which is where the sort of sharing of requests and amplification and all of that comes from. In terms of the posting the memes and this thing, I don't think it's a defense mechanism so much as I feel like there are days where it can become so overwhelming with just all the sort of information that's coming out, is to just sort of remind myself that I fundamentally am on here to laugh at things. I am fundamentally like a comedian and a creator. And occasionally, and so when I post a meme or when I post a reel or whatever, it's something that the thought of which made me laugh. Like that's sort of thing. And I just sort of want to put it out there because I also then feel like, one is if it made me laugh, especially in this time, then it must be very funny. Two is I feel like people are also going through my story, they're scrolling through so much doom. If somewhere in the middle of that, one meme can pop out and just make them smile for a minute, that's a good thing to sort of put in there. And so that's basically it.
And you took a while to get started on Insta Reels. You weren't one of the early adapters of
Hmm.
Reel, but once you started, it's literally been it comes to your mind and you put it out there, and you
Yeah,
like probably say the simplest of things in like I mean your reels are not like produced reels. They're literally like, oh, I thought about it, let's do this.
pretty much.
Um, you were never on TikTok, I'm guessing.
I was not in a big way, at least. I was on it, but not like sort
Huh.
of in a big way.
So, how has Reels, Instagram Reels changed your way of content creation or the way you look at content?
I think it's a fun challenge. It's also, I mean, we've all sort of, I mean, Xerxes, you know this, we all live sort of at the mercy of this algorithm, right? There's always a serial killer at our back. What new tweak today? What new tweak today will swiftly bring the Reaper's scythe down on my career? One is like in terms of early adoption, etc. As we've established, the large theme of this conversation is that I have no discipline. Um, and I see people putting out reels, and I saw a lot of reels that was so funny, so good, etc. I'm like, मेरे से ये नहीं होने वाला. So I'm just gonna sort of figure it out. And then in terms of the sort of this thing of I think about it, I put it out, is I want to hold myself and I want my audience to expect a standard which I know that I can consistently deliver. All right. And
Hmm.
I cannot consistently deliver a high produced, etc. standard because, like I said, options are on table, uncle is on couch. So I just sort of also it's a really fun challenge for me to just sort of see um, how much just given what like the phone and the app and everything is capable of is
Hmm.
how far can I stretch like a joke or how much sort of this thing can I extract out of just this. And
Right.
I feel like for Instagram that's good. Like for me, I feel like there's a point at which if I want to do sort of higher produced content, I try and put that effort into something that maybe goes on YouTube or something like that. But I feel like for me, I feel like this works in my vibe.
R-
And I'm sort of happy to sort of do that.
Right. I'm getting a lot of comments about Tahir Shah and just coping with that.
I don't see it. I mean, not until they mentioned
Yeah.
it. I mean,
I saw Zakir Hussain, which was mentioned early on, but now my eye and your eyes are going on
this is,
right now.
this is Zakir Hussain after shower. This is post shower Zakir Hussain.
You get a lot of trolls on your content because you are very vocal in the most weirdest and subtle ways, yet not so subtle. How
Mhm.
do you, I mean, most often than not, you either ignore it or make fun of them. Do you get scared? Does it, in what way does it take a toll on you? I'm sure it takes a
See,
toll on you.
it takes a toll in the sense that it's the intensity of it, right? Like in the sense last year somebody leaked like my address and my number online, and then people started like calling at like 2 and 3 in the morning, saying like all sorts of horrible shit and this that. And at that point, I feel like I don't have a problem with A getting afraid and B taking steps to like I went to the cops straight away, and I was like, what the hell is this? Different story that they were like, there's not really much we can do aside from
Hmm.
tracing this tweet back, etc. All of that. But in that situation, I'm like, damn right. But if it's regular just trolling, like if it's just some guy getting in the DM and being like, yeah, me, Judy, or whatever, I'm just like, Hana, man, just block, khatam. Like in the sense, one or two obviously will still get under your skin, right? Because at the end of the day,
Hmm.
you're human. But now overall, I've just reached that stage of just like, not, no change is going to happen in my life if I just like you like with and with greatest respect if you're a sort of troll like if of that level and of that caliber and this that then no, it's not like, oh, you lost a follower, etc. Whatever. Jana, like if that's your mentality, you're not. नहीं चाहिए ऐसा follower यार. ये तो नहीं आदमी नहीं है. You're bug on a windscreen. चुप रहे. Like, so it's fine. Like,
and how does your family react to that? Do they get scared looking at the hate and the abuses and
yeah,
the
I mean,
threats?
sometimes they do. They absolutely do, right? Because they are also on Instagram, they are on social media, so they're not blind like to this stuff. So they see it. So a lot of times they get worried. But a lot of times it's also then up to me to sort of contextualize it, where I'm like, yeah, look, there's 116-year-olds who are going to shout at me. Like, it's fine,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, it's cool. And you have to understand that not every this thing. But then at the same time, when like if an address or a number gets put online or this, that, then like obviously then their fear is also valid, right? Because they're like,
Right.
not just you who lives here. So that, and you don't want to be in a position where like your family feels unsafe, right? Like whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like this thing on them. And then, but then I just get more angry. I should be like, why should I give in to like cockroaches like this? Right? Really?
And as we promised, crypto.
Yes,
I
crypto.
I saw you celebrate Ripple a few weeks back.
Yes.
What are your top five picks for right now, if anyone wants to get into crypto?
Right now, obviously not at current prices. When this is just, please, not investment advice. This is not, this is based on my
It's not
little bit of
financial
reading.
advice. We don't do
Yeah, not
anything.
financial advice, not none of those things. But I would always say keep an eye on Ethereum. Then there is, there's
Card.
Ethereum. There's also BNB, is an interesting currency.
Binance Cash.
Then
Yeah.
there's then XRP. Um,
Ripple.
there is also, so those are three. Wait,
Cardano.
what are the other ones that I have?
Cardano.
Cardano for
For
sure. Cardano,
yeah.
like for sure. Like I think that's a
Long
long
term
term, like
stake.
that's a great sort of long term stake coin, etc. I had
Mm-hmm.
like slight hopes like from Filecoin, but full like popat has happened on that front. So I would like confidently say like those are four where I've done a little reading and can be like, but again, as always, I would say that like my personal approach to crypto is please only put in money you can afford to lose.
Afford
Like
to
in the sense that
lose.
like मतलब महीने का पैसा एक हफ्ते का दारू का पैसा डाल उसमें. Like in the sense तेरे होम लोन का पैसा प्लीज मत डाल क्रिप्टो में इस
Mad
वक्त.
डालो, don't be
Like
stupid.
हाँ
It's gonna,
हाँ.
it could crash anytime, it can jump
You don't
anytime.
know. You don't. Then my point is that it's still very much a sort of new and volatile this thing. So understand that any investing you're doing without like a full you don't like we've seen it's like an iceberg. We've seen like
Right.
1/8 of this beast. We don't know what's fully underneath. There's a lot going on. We still don't
Mm-hmm.
know who the whales are. We still don't know like who the sharks are. We don't know who the bulls are. We don't know who the bears are. Also, there's a lot of one thing that happens. Please, my one this thing is don't get excited about shitcoins. Like don't like
Doge.
ये
Are you
डोज
talking
बोज
about
हाँ
Doge?
like आते जाते रहेगा. That is not the game. That is not the this thing. That is like just please. So
Well, they're not bad to short on. I mean, they
yeah, I mean,
almost,
but then you'd better know what you're doing. Like in the sense that if you
yeah,
read two Reddit comments and three friends are excited about और वो सुन के तू डाल दिया तेरा पैसा, then तू
and at the wrong
like
time.
yeah, at the wrong time, right? Because see, the thing is, you will always read the story about that
Yeah,
guy who accidentally
right.
had 5 bitcoins on some hard drive 10 years ago, but now is like $59 trillion or whatever. But you'll never hear the story about the guy who put in like $1,000 that he couldn't afford to at the
And
wrong
then
time.
cost him.
And then it cost him a freaking lot because those stories don't really make it
Nope.
to the sort of top shelf. So just know that those stories are also there. And like anything else that you would put money into, there is a certain amount of study, a certain amount of primary research that you have to do. I would encourage you to not just go by like the trends that people are. You'll hear terms like ETH, this, that, whatever, but go पढ़ लो at least like Ethereum का Wikipedia page पढ़ो उनके official website पे जाओ समझो मतलब इस
Dude,
currency का point क्या है like
did you read the thing where when Ethereum started jumping beyond it was stuck at 2.9 for a while, right? When it
mhm.
broke the threshold, people got interested. The classical investors, the old school elephants came into the room and they made ETC jump instead of ETH.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? They made Ethereum Classic go up, right? Because they didn't
Yeah.
understand the difference between the two. This is what I'm saying, right? Like it's just it's just wild. So please be careful. Also, see, the thing is, the bigger difference is that um, crypto has a lot more younger investors than older investors, right? Because it's a tech play. Boomers are still figuring it out, etc. All of that. So please understand that just as a result of the larger base being young, the average tone of reporting or this thing that you'll hear will be very exuberant and youthful. So don't get carried away, right? Don't freaking get carried away by it. Still, please do your research like you would in any way
Any investments?
like possible. Like, yeah, like watch YouTube videos that are
A lot,
explainers
yeah.
on like, what a currency is, what is a smart contract, what is forking, what is this, what is that, all of that. If you come across any term, like what I did with crypto was any time I came across a term I didn't understand, I just halted, went and like fully did crash course in that term, came back, do all of that. Don't just hop over like
Hmm.
this thing. So yeah.
Okay. Whew, this has been a fun chat. Lastly, what do you think of Elon Musk on SNL when he called Dogecoin a hustle?
You know what? I'm just going to be completely honest and say that I didn't watch Elon Musk on Dogecoin. I'm over this
Huh.
Elon Musk hype train, like in the sense that at at one point I'm like there was a point where I really thought this guy was like this Steve Jobs or like the this thing. But right now I feel like the guy needs to like lay off the vape pens a little bit. I feel like he needs to ask himself some questions about his life a little bit. So it's just yeah. Just well, I'm just like, you know what? I can't really be bothered. Like, just let me know when there's another cool rocket going up. Like, let me
And
know
your
when that happens. And
bets,
the thing you're calling it a hustle, right? Is just the fact that
huh?
this is a classic danger of the crypto market, right? Where at the end
Right.
of the day, like people have basically been acting like he's some sort of like Bhagwan, right?
Yep.
Like these basically kids who are just like, Elon, Elon, Elon. And then randomly, casually on a Saturday night, he's going to go up on stage and call like that thing a hustle.
Hustle.
Um, so this is why you do your reading and you find out your this thing, and then you can tell like when like to make a smart play as opposed to making like the social media play. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah,
like
should play.
the this thing. Yeah, don't.
And when do you think Ether's touching 5,000 and when do you think it's touching 10,000? I mean, may or may
I
not,
don't
but
know, but I'm going to hopefully be there to buy all the dips along the way. Is all I know
it
on the
touched
basis of this
4K
daily
today
chart.
already.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
already
it's
at
crazy. It's
4,200 or something.
crazy. It's crazy. Like it's been great fun watching for the last few days. Like it's really, really great.
This was an awesome conversation. Thank you
Yeah, man.
for
And
coming
thank
on
you for
board.
asking me to do
Cheers.
this. I've had a great time. Cheers.
An absolute pleasure, Ron. Cheers. And see you soon,
Yeah,
hopefully in
man.
the real life at some point.
Absolutely.
Thank
But
you for
please stay
everyone
safe.
who
Please
tuned
stay
in.
home.
You
Everybody who's
too.
watching, and you mask up if you go outside.
Hey, wait, one thing
Extremely.
I forgot to ask you about the vaccine. That's been your latest
Yes,
highlight. How
that has
did you
been my
go
latest
about
highlight.
that? How were
I
the
basically
how was it getting the slot? How was it the side effects? You shared some of it, but still.
a lifetime of like buying concert tickets on lottery, paid off on the 1st of May at 7:30 p.m. And yeah, it was so the slot was basically everybody now knows the lottery of the fastest finger first. That's
Hmm.
basically what it was. It was a lot of search button smashing, a lot of strategic play, all of that. Then the experience of getting it when I got it personally, it was very seamless because I think a lot of people they didn't have walk-ins on the day that I went. You had to be
Right.
registered to go. So crowds were managed very well. I got it over with in the
Hmm.
morning. And yeah, side effects like first night I got hit for a six by the chills, like quite spectacularly.
Hmm.
But that was it. Like after that, everything else was actually just slowly recovering from that first night of sort of chills and body ache. And then about, I think I'm going to say a maximum of 72 hours later, I was back at like full energy.
Nice.
Like by day
Best of
four, I
luck.
did like a light workout. Like,
Sweet. That's
yeah,
good news for anyone and everyone who's considering this.
yeah,
Ah, thank you, Rohan. I'm gonna see you on the other side. This has been fun.
I will.
And
Absolutely. It's
thank
been
you
a
for
ton of
everyone
fun,
who
man.
tuned in. Yep. I'm gonna take out some highlights. It's gonna be a fun conversation to edit. See you on the other side.
Amazing.